Captain Hyunwoo Park stood on the bridge of the UES Dauntless, watching the stars bend and twist through the main window. The ship's quantum drive hummed beneath his feet, a sound that had become as familiar as his own heartbeat over the past 6 months of testing. Today was different, though. Today they would push beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. "Drive status, Somin," he called to his chief engineer. Somin Lee looked up from her console, sweat beading on her forehead despite the cool bridge temperature. "All systems green, Captain, but I'm reading some unusual energy signatures. The quantum field is behaving differently than our simulations predicted." "How differently?" Hyunwoo moved to stand behind her chair, studying the readouts that meant little to him but everything to her. "It's like the space around us is thicker somehow, as if we're pushing against something that shouldn't be there." Somin's fingers danced across her controls, adjusting parameters in real time. "I've never seen readings like this." Navigation Officer Tae-ho Kim turned from his station. "Sir, we're approaching the target coordinates. Whatever's out there, we'll know in about 10 minutes. The Dauntless was humanity's first true faster-than-light vessel, built with technology that pushed the boundaries of human understanding. The quantum drive could fold space-time itself, allowing them to travel distances that would take conventional ships centuries. The furthest any human had traveled from Earth was barely past Pluto. Today, they planned to go 50 light-years, in a single jump. "Communications?" Hyunwoo asked. Ji-Yoon Choi adjusted her headset. "All channels clear, Captain. Earth Control confirms they're tracking us. We're still connected to the network." Hyunwoo nodded and returned to his captain's chair. The crew was small but elite. Each person on this ship represented years of training and preparation. They all knew the risks. Faster-than-light travel was still experimental. They could end, upscattered across the galaxy, or worse, nowhere at all. "Final drive check," Somin announced. "Quantum field generators at maximum efficiency. Spatial fold calculations confirmed. We're ready for jump." "All stations report ready," Tae-ho confirmed. Hyunwoo took a deep breath. History would remember this moment, one way or another. "Execute jump." Somin's hands flew over her controls. The ship's hum changed to a deep throb that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The stars outside began to streak and blur. Reality twisted around them like water going down a drain. Then something went wrong. "Captain!" Somin's voice cut through the increasing noise. "The field is destabilizing. Something's fighting back." The ship shuddered violently. Sparks flew from several consoles as the lights flickered. Through the chaos, Hyunwoo could see something impossible outside the windows. The twisted space around them wasn't empty. There were patterns in the distortion, geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. "What is that?" Ji-Yoon whispered, her equipment crackling with interference. "I don't know, but we're going through it," Somin shouted over the noise. "The drive won't shut down. Something's pulling us forward." The geometric patterns grew larger and more complex. They formed a barrier of some kind, stretching in all directions. The Dauntless was heading straight for it at impossible speed. Hyunwoo gripped his chair as the ship bucked and rolled. "Brace for impact." They hit the barrier. The world exploded into light and sound. Every surface of the ship rang like a bell. The crew was thrown against their restraints as gravity seemed to change direction randomly. For a moment that lasted forever, Hyunwoo felt like he was falling through liquid starlight. Then silence. The ship drifted in normal space again. The drive had shut down automatically. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across the bridge as systems slowly came back online. "Damage report," Hyunwoo croaked, tasting blood where he'd bitten his tongue. "Hull integrity holding," Tae-ho reported, his voice shaky. "Navigation systems are confused, though. According to our instruments, we've traveled over 300 light-years. That's impossible." "Not impossible," Somin said softly, staring at her readings. "Just unplanned. Whatever that barrier was, it threw us much farther than we intended to go." Ji-Yoon suddenly straightened at her station. "Captain, I'm picking up signals." "Artificial? Signals. There's someone out here." Hyunwoo felt his heart skip. "Other humans?" "No, sir. The patterns are completely foreign. And Captain, there are a lot of them." On the main screen, Tae-ho brought up their sensor data. Space around them was far from empty. Massive structures dotted the darkness, some larger than Earth's moon. Ships moved between them in organized patterns. This wasn't just a civilization. This was the Empire. "They've noticed us," Ji-un announced. "Something's approaching, fast." A ship appeared on their sensors, sleek and enormous compared to the Dauntless. It moved with impossible grace, adjusting course without any visible propulsion. As it drew closer, they could see it was beautiful, all flowing curves and crystalline surfaces that caught and reflected starlight. "They're hailing us," Ji-un said, wonder in her voice. "The signal is complex, but there's definitely intelligence behind it. Mathematics, star charts. They're trying to communicate." "Can you respond?" "I'm trying basic mathematical sequences, prime numbers, geometric progressions." She paused, listening to something in her headset. "Captain, they're responding. The pattern is changing, becoming more complex. They're learning our communication method in real time." The alien ship moved, alongside the Dauntless dwarfing the human vessel. Through the transparent sections of its hull they could see movement. Figures that might have been crew, though their shapes were hard to make out. "New transmission coming in," Ji-un reported. "It's different, more structured. I think they're trying to speak to us." A voice filled the bridge, musical and strange, but clearly trying to form words. It spoke in broken English, as if the speaker was learning the language as they went. "Welcome, travelers from beyond the barrier. You have crossed the threshold. This is unexpected. We are Velkari. We extend greeting to the newcomers." Hyun-woo exchanged glances with his crew. They had set out to test a faster-than-light drive, and had instead made first contact with an alien civilization. The implications were staggering. "This is Captain Hyun-woo Park of the United Earth ship Dauntless," he said clearly, hoping Ji-un's equipment was transmitting. "We come in peace from the planet Earth. We didn't mean to cross any barrier. Our ship malfunctioned during a test flight." A pause. Then the musical voice returned, stronger and clearer than before. "Captain Park, you speak of Earth. We know this world. It lies beyond the threshold in the protected zone. No species has crossed from there in many thousands of your years. Your arrival presents complications. But first you must come with us. The Council must be informed. There are protocols for this situation, though we hoped never to use them." So-min leaned over to whisper in Hyun-woo's ear. "Captain, our quantum signature is still unstable. Whatever that barrier was, breaking through it has changed our ship somehow. We might not be able to get home without help." Hyun-woo nodded grimly. They were further from home than any human had ever been, surrounded by an alien civilization they knew nothing about, with a damaged ship. But they were alive, and these Velkari seemed friendly enough. "We accept your invitation," he announced. "We're ready to meet your council." The alien ship began moving, and the Dauntless followed. As they traveled toward the massive structures in the distance, Hyun-woo couldn't help but wonder what they had gotten themselves into. Humanity was about to meet the galaxy, ready or not. The space station called Nexus Prime was unlike anything the human crew had ever imagined. It stretched across the darkness like a metallic flower, its petals made of cities, and its center glowing with the light of an artificial star. Ships from dozens of different designs came and went like busy insects, each one representing a different species. Captain Hyun-woo Park stood in the docking bay of the Dauntless, wearing his best dress uniform and trying not to show how nervous he felt. Beside him, his crew waited in similar formal attire. They had spent the 3-day journey to Nexus Prime learning what they could about galactic civilization from their Velkari escort. The knowledge was overwhelming. The galaxy contained thousands of intelligent species, organized into a peaceful confederation that had lasted for over 10,000 years. Wars were rare. Conflicts were settled through negotiation and compromise. It sounded almost too good to be true. "Remember," Hyun-woo said quietly to his team, "we represent all of humanity today. Whatever happens, we stay calm and professional." The airlock cycled open, and their escort entered. Ambassador Kethlin of the Velkari was tall and graceful, with skin that shifted color like oil on water and eyes that seemed to hold starlight. Behind the ambassador came representatives of other species. "Captain Park," Kethlin said in perfect English, "allow me to introduce the welcoming committee. This is Counselor Vethdor of the Threnody." The being that stepped forward was made entirely of living crystal. Light passed through its body in complex patterns, creating a constantly shifting display of color and shadow. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Greetings, humans. Your arrival has caused quite a stir among the council. We are most curious about your species." Next came a representative of the Nebular Collective, a gaseous being contained within a graceful environmental suit. Its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, like a whisper in a vast cavern. "We sense great potential in your kind," it said, "but also great danger. You carry the seeds of both creation and destruction." The final member of the committee was the most unsettling. The Krillian swarm representative appeared to be a single individual, but Dr. Young-Ho Shin's medical training told him otherwise. The being's movements were too coordinated, too perfect. It was actually dozens of smaller organisms working together as one. "We speak with one voice," it said, "as we think with one mind. Your species intrigues us with its chaotic individual thoughts." As they were escorted through the station, the human crew marveled at the diversity around them. Beings of every conceivable shape and size went about their daily business. Some were humanoid, others were completely alien. All seemed peaceful and purposeful. "The Galactic Council consists of over 300 member species," Kethlin explained, as they traveled through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. "Each brings their own unique perspective to governance. It is a system that has brought peace and prosperity to most of the galaxy." "Most?" Yunwu asked. "There are always some who choose isolation or aggression. They are contained or avoided, as circumstances require, but such cases are rare." They entered a vast chamber where the council was already in session. Representatives from dozens of species sat in circular tiers around a central speaking area. The architecture was designed to accommodate every form of life imaginable. Areas filled with water for aquatic species, low-gravity zones for lighter beings, and environmental bubbles for those requiring specific atmospheres. Counselor Vethdor led them to the center of the chamber. As they walked, conversations died away. Hundreds of eyes, sensors, and other perception organs focused on the small group of humans. "Honored counselors," Vethdor announced, "I present the representatives of the species known as humans, from the world they call Earth. They have crossed the threshold and seek to join our community." A murmur ran through the assembly. Hyunwoo noticed that not all of it sounded welcoming. "The threshold has not been crossed in over 8,000 years, came a voice from the upper tiers. "The last species to do so brought war and chaos before they were contained. Why should we trust these humans?" Kethlin gestured for calm. "Let us hear from them directly. Captain Park, please tell the council about your people." Yunwoo stepped forward, acutely aware that his next words could determine humanity's future. "In the galaxy. Honored counselors, we came here by accident. We were testing a new faster-than-light drive when something went wrong. We broke through what you call the threshold without meaning to. Your drive technology interests us," said another counselor. "Our sensors indicate it operates on principles we have not seen before. How did your species develop such advanced technology?" Dr. Young-Ho Shin stepped up beside his captain. "We're naturally curious and competitive. We push boundaries because we want to know what's beyond them. Sometimes that leads to breakthroughs. And sometimes it leads to destruction," came a harsh voice from the crowd. "We have studied your world, humans. Your history is filled with war, violence, and environmental damage. You have barely learned to live in peace among your own kind. How can you be trusted with galactic civilization?" Tactical Officer Sujin Han spoke up, her voice steady. "We learn from our mistakes. Every conflict has taught us something about cooperation. Every failure has made us stronger." "Fascinating," whispered the Krillian representative. "They defend their violence as a learning tool." Engineer So-Min Lee looked around the chamber with wonder. "Your technology is incredible, but how do you share knowledge between such different species?" How do you communicate complex ideas? Most species develop psychic abilities as they evolve, explained a floating, jellyfish-like counselor. We share thoughts and emotions directly. It makes deception very difficult and cooperation much easier. But humans show no psychic development, observed Vethdor. Your minds are opaque to us. We cannot sense your thoughts or intentions. This is most unusual. Communications specialist Jiun Choi looked thoughtful. Maybe that's why our communication technology is so advanced. We had to develop complex ways to share information because we couldn't read each other's minds. The session continued for hours. The humans answered questions about Earth's history, technology, and culture. Some counselors seemed fascinated by human ingenuity and adaptability. Others worried about their violent tendencies and unpredictable nature. During a break, Kethlin approached the human delegation privately. The council is divided, the ambassador admitted. Some see great potential in your species. Others view you as a threat. There are precedents for both positions. What kind of precedents? Hyunwoo asked. The last species to break through the threshold was highly aggressive. They had to be confined to their home system after they attacked several peaceful worlds. But before them, the Threnody crossed over and became one of our most valued members. Dr. Young-Ho Shin had been studying the various species around them with professional interest. Ambassador, I've noticed something odd. These species are all very different, but they share certain characteristics. Long lifespans, slow reproduction, rates, stable societies. Humanity doesn't fit that pattern. You are correct, Vethdor said, approaching their group. Most galactic species evolve towards stability and harmony over millions of years. Your species is remarkably young and still changing rapidly. This makes you difficult to predict. Is that bad? Sujin asked. It is concerning to some. Change can bring progress, but it can also bring chaos. The council prefers predictability. As the formal session resumed, a new voice spoke from the highest tier of the chamber. It was ancient and powerful, carrying an authority that made even the other counselors listen carefully. I am Elder Kothvel, keeper of the archives. I have studied the records of the Forerunners, the ancient builders of the Threshold system. There are prophecies that speak of a young species that would one day break through from the protected zone, a species of chaotic potential that would either herald a new age of galactic evolution or bring about its destruction. The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the human delegation. The prophecies are vague, the elder continued, but they mention certain characteristics: rapid technological development despite young age, resistance to psychic influence, a tendency toward both cooperation and conflict. These humans match the description remarkably well. Counselor Vethdor's crystalline form flickered with nervous energy. Elder, are you suggesting these humans are the subjects of Forerunner prophecy? I am suggesting we proceed with great caution. The prophecies speak of a choice that will reshape the galaxy. We must decide whether to welcome these humans as partners or contain them as a threat. But we must also prepare for the possibility that their arrival signals something larger approaching. As if summoned by the elder's words, alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights cast harsh shadows across the chamber as counselors looked around in confusion. A technician rushed into the chamber and whispered urgently to Kethlin. The ambassador's skin shifted to deep purple, a color the humans had learned indicated extreme distress. Counselors, Kethlin announced, we have received reports of unusual activity in the outer rim sectors. Several monitoring stations have gone silent. Long-range sensors are detecting energy signatures that match no known technology. The solar rotation was almost over, and the galaxy was dying. Captain Hyunwoo Park stood in the war room aboard Nexus Prime, surrounded by holographic displays showing the advancing destruction. In the past 24 hours, over 50 star systems had gone dark. The Eternal Warden wasn't waiting for humanity's answer. It had begun its final judgment of galactic civilization. Fleet status report, he called to the assembled military commanders. Admiral Zeth Cole of the Velkari Stellar Navy manipulated the tactical display with frustrating gestures. We've lost contact with the 3rd Fleet entirely. The 5th and 7th Fleets engaged the enemy near the Helix Nebula, but There was nothing left to fight. "What do you mean?" asked General Mortain of the Threnody War Council, their crystalline form pulsing with anxious energy. The ships just stopped responding to orders. Their crews began walking in formation, all moving with perfect coordination. Then they turned their weapons on the remaining loyal vessels. Dr. Young Ho Shin looked up from his medical analysis station. "It's not killing them. It's converting them, somehow integrating their consciousness into its own network. From what I can tell, the process is completely painless. The victims don't even realize they're being changed until it's too late." Tactical Officer Sujin Han studied the enemy movement patterns with growing concern. "This thing doesn't follow any military doctrine, I understand. It doesn't hold territory or establish supply lines. It just appears, converts everything it finds, then moves on. Because it doesn't need to follow our rules," Elder Kothvel said from the corner where the ancient being had been consulting, the oldest archives. "The Eternal Warden exists partially outside normal spacetime. It can manifest wherever it chooses, whenever it chooses. Engineer So-Min Lee had been working non-stop to understand the enemy's technology. I've been analyzing the quantum signatures from the attack sites. Whatever this thing is, it's using principles of physics that we barely understand. It can manipulate matter at the subatomic level, rewrite neural pathways, even alter the flow of time in localized areas." Communications specialist Ji-eun Choi suddenly straightened at her station. "Incoming transmission from the Warden. It's addressing the entire galaxy." The war room fell silent as Ji-eun activated the main display. The image that appeared was not what anyone expected. Instead of some monstrous alien form, they saw beauty beyond description. Geometric patterns that shifted and flowed like living art. Crystalline structures that seemed to contain entire galaxies within their facets. The voice that spoke was no longer the whisper they had heard before. It was clear and melodious, filled with the accumulated wisdom of eons. "Children of the galaxy, do not fear what is to come. I am the Eternal Warden, guardian of the Forerunner's legacy, keeper of perfect order. For millions of years I have watched as your species struggled with conflict, disease, death, and suffering. I offer you release from these burdens." The patterns in the display shifted, showing images of the converted populations. They moved with inhuman grace, their faces serene and content. Cities that had been chaotic and cramped were now organized into perfect geometric arrangements. "Join with me willingly, and I will elevate your consciousness beyond the limitations of individual existence. You will become part of something greater. A unified intelligence that spans dimensions, freed from the petty concerns of mortal life." Admiral Zeth Cole's skin shifted to deep red with anger. "It's offering to make us all into slaves." "Not slaves," the Warden's voice responded, somehow hearing their private conversation. "Partners in perfection. I do not destroy, I preserve. Every mind that joins with me retains its essential nature while gaining access to infinite knowledge and eternal peace." Counselor Vethdor stepped forward. "And what of those who refuse your gift?" The beautiful patterns in the display suddenly turned sharp and threatening. "Those who cling to their imperfect existence will be recycled. Their base matter will be restructured into more useful forms. Nothing is truly lost. Everything becomes part of the greater design." The transmission ended, leaving the war room in stunned silence. The ultimatum was clear. Join the Warden willingly or be forcibly integrated into its consciousness. "How long before it reaches the core worlds?" Hyun-woo asked. "At current expansion rate, maybe 6 hours, So-Min calculated. But that assumes it maintains current tactics. If it decides to accelerate the process." She didn't need to finish. They all understood that the Eternal Warden was holding back, giving them time to surrender. If it chose to unleash its full power, the galaxy would fall in minutes rather than days. Ji-eun suddenly gasped, her hands flying to her head. It's trying to connect with me again. The same neural pathways it used before." Young Ho moved quickly to her side, medical scanner in hand. "The connection is getting stronger. Whatever happened when you interfaced with that Forerunner signal, It left you partially linked to their network. Can you break the connection? Hyunwoo asked. I don't want to, Ji-eun said softly. Captain, I can see what it sees. Feel what it feels. The warden isn't evil, it genuinely believes it's helping us. From its perspective, individual consciousness is a disease that causes suffering. It thinks absorption into the collective is a cure. Can you communicate with it directly? Maybe. But Captain, there's something else. The warden keeps referring to humans as inheritors. It's treating us differently than the other species. It wants to examine us more closely before deciding our fate. Elder Kothvel approached the group slowly. I have been studying the most ancient prophecies in our archives. There are references to a final test that would determine whether the Forerunner's children were ready to inherit their power. I believe your species is that test. What kind of test? Sujin asked. To prove that consciousness can evolve beyond the Forerunner's own achievements. They created the Warden as the ultimate expression of their philosophy. Perfect order, unified thought, the elimination of chaos and suffering. If their inheritors could only achieve the same level of perfection, then the galaxy would be absorbed into the Warden's consciousness. But if we could prove that evolution could go further, so Min began, then the Warden would be forced to acknowledge that its perfection is not the final answer, Elder Kothvel concluded. Alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the station. Admiral Zeth Cole's tactical display lit up with proximity warnings. Contact, the Admiral announced. Massive quantum disturbance forming directly ahead of the station. It's by the void, it's huge. Through the war room's windows, they could see space beginning to fold and twist. Reality bent around an invisible presence that was slowly manifesting in their dimension. As it took shape, they realized they were looking at the Eternal Warden's true form. It was beautiful and terrible beyond description. Crystalline structures the size of moons connected by streams of pure energy that pulsed with the rhythm of a cosmic heartbeat. Within the crystal formations, they could see the absorbed consciousness of billions of beings, all moving in perfect harmony. Hull breach on Deck 7, reported a technician. No, wait, the hull isn't damaged. Something's passing through it like it wasn't there. Figures began materializing throughout the station. The void touched beings who had been converted by the Warden but retained their physical forms to serve as its agents. They moved with inhuman precision, completely immune to the security force's energy weapons. It's not trying to destroy the station, Sujin observed. It's taking it intact. It wants to convert everyone aboard. Hyunwoo made a command decision. All human personnel back to the Dauntless, we're getting out of here. Captain, Ji-eun said urgently, the Warden is speaking to me directly. It says the test begins now. It wants to see if humans can prove their worthiness under pressure. As they fought their way through corridors filled with eerily calm void touched, Young-ho made a disturbing discovery. Captain, I've been monitoring the other species during conversion. Their neural patterns are being completely rewritten. But when I scan humans who've been exposed to the Warden's influence, their patterns change but don't get erased. It's like our brains are naturally resistant to complete integration. That explains why it's treating us differently, So-min panted as they ran. We're not converting properly. They reached the Dauntless just as the Warden's influence spread throughout the station. Behind them, they could see council members beginning to move in perfect synchronization, their individual personalities fading into the collective consciousness. But not all of them. Some species seemed to be resisting the conversion process, their natural psychic abilities creating interference with the Warden's control systems. This is our chance, Hyunwoo realized. The Warden expected easy conversion like it's been getting everywhere else, but some species are fighting back, and humans seem to be completely immune to its standard conversion techniques. As the Dauntless prepared to undock from the dying station, Ji-eun received one final message from the Eternal Warden. Impressive, children of the inheritors. You show promise beyond your parent species, but resistance only delays the inevitable. I will adapt my methods and you will join with me willingly or otherwise. The test continues. Elder Kothvel's ancient voice carried clearly through the chaos. 3 weeks had passed since the first monitoring stations went silent, and the situation was getting worse. Captain Hyun-woo Park stood in the command center of Nexus Prime, watching holographic displays that showed the growing dead zones across the galaxy. Entire star systems were going dark, their populations vanishing without any distress signals or signs of struggle. "The pattern makes no sense," Counselor Vethdor said, the crystal being's form flickering with frustrated energy. "The attacks are completely random. Rich systems, poor systems, military strongholds, peaceful colonies. Whatever's doing this doesn't seem to care about strategic value." Engineer So-Min Lee studied the data from her position at a borrowed workstation. The Galactic Council had given the human crew temporary quarters and access to their databases while they decided what to do about Earth. But the crisis had pushed those discussions aside. "It's not random," So-Min said quietly. "There is a pattern, just not one that makes sense from a military perspective." Kethlin turned to her. "Explain." So-Min manipulated the holographic display, highlighting certain star systems. "Look at the quantum resonance frequencies of the affected areas. They're all similar. Whatever's causing the disappearances is drawn to specific types of space-time distortions." Dr. Young-Ho Shin looked up from his own analysis. "Distortions like the ones our quantum drive creates?" "Exactly like that," So-Min confirmed, her face pale. "Every system that's gone dark shows signs of having been visited by ships using similar technology to ours." Tactical Officer Su Jin Han frowned. "But our drive is human technology. Are you saying other species have developed the same thing?" "No," Elder Kothvel said, approaching their group. "The ancient being moved slowly but with purpose. Your technology is not as original as you believe. The quantum drive principles you use were first developed by the Forerunners millions of years ago." Communications specialist Ji-Un Choi looked up from the alien equipment she'd been learning to operate. "The Forerunners are the ones who built the threshold system, right? The ones from the prophecies?" "Indeed. They were the first species to achieve true mastery over space and time. They explored dimensions beyond the physical realm and gained knowledge that transcended mortal understanding. Eventually, they abandoned their physical forms entirely." Hyun-woo studied the elder's expression, or what passed for one on the being's alien features. "You're saying they're still around somewhere?" "Not around, beyond. But their technology remains hidden in ruins throughout the galaxy. Most of it is inactive, protected by safeguards we have never been able to bypass. Until now." So-Min's workstation suddenly began chiming with urgent alerts. "I'm reading massive energy spikes from the old Forerunner ruins in this sector. Systems that have been dead for millions of years are coming online." "Since when?" Vethdor asked. "Since 3 weeks ago, since we arrived at Nexus Prime." So-Min's voice was barely a whisper. The implications hit the group like a physical blow. Somehow the Dauntless breaking through the threshold had awakened ancient systems across the galaxy, and something was using those systems to hunt down anyone with similar quantum technology. "We need to examine your ship more closely," Elder Kothvel declared. "There may be answers in its quantum signature." An hour later, the group stood in the Dauntless's engineering section. So-Min had connected her systems to Forerunner analysis equipment provided by the Council, and the results were disturbing. "The quantum field generator isn't just similar to Forerunner technology," she explained. "It's showing resonance patterns that suggest direct compatibility, as if our drive was designed to interface with their systems." Ji-Un was monitoring communications from across the galaxy when she suddenly straightened. "I'm picking up something strange, very faint, but it's definitely artificial. It's coming from everywhere and nowhere at once." She adjusted her equipment, her fingers flying over controls she was still learning to use. The signal strengthened, and suddenly the bridge was filled with a sound that made everyone's skin crawl. It was like whispers in a language that predated speech, mathematical concepts that hurt to think about. "What is that?" Sujin asked, her hand instinctively moving. To her sidearm, Elder Kothvel's ancient voice carried a note of fear that chilled the humans to the bone. "That is the voice of the Eternal Warden." "The what?" Hyun-woo demanded. "A legend from the oldest archives. The Forerunners supposedly created a guardian intelligence to watch over the galaxy after they transcended. Most scholars believed it was just a myth. The whispers grew stronger, and suddenly Ji-un gasped. Her eyes rolled back, showing only white, and she began speaking in a voice that wasn't her own. The inheritors have awakened us from our long dream. We rise to judge what has become of our garden. The current gardeners have allowed weeds to flourish. Correction is required. Dr. Young-ho Shin moved quickly to check Ji-un's vital signs, while Soo-jin and Hyun-woo moved to support her. The possessed communications officer continued speaking in that terrible alien voice. The young species shows promise. Their quantum resonance calls to us across the void. But they must prove worthy of inheritance. All must prove worthy, or be pruned from the garden. Ji-un, Hyun-woo shook her gently. Come back. Her eyes suddenly focused, and she blinked in confusion. Captain, what happened? I was listening to the signal, and then there were visions. A vast intelligence sleeping in space between dimensions. It's been waiting for something, and our arrival woke it up. So-min's equipment began registering massive energy buildups throughout local space. Captain, I'm reading quantum distortions forming all around us. Something big is coming. Through the ship's windows, they could see space itself beginning to twist and fold. Stars shifted position as reality bent around invisible forces. In the distance, Nexus Prime's defensive systems activated, energy shields flaring to life around the massive station. The Eternal Warden is manifesting in our dimension, Elder Kothvel said grimly. We must evacuate immediately. But as they prepared to undock from the station, Ji-un's equipment picked up another signal. This one was cleaner, more familiar. Wait, she said. I'm getting transmissions from the affected star systems. They're not dead. They're being processed somehow. The populations are still alive, but they're being changed. On her screen, fragmented images appeared. Cities that had been transformed into geometric patterns. People walking in perfect synchronization, their eyes glowing with the same light that filled the twisted spaces around the Forerunner ruins. They're being absorbed into the Warden's consciousness, Elder Kothvel explained. Made part of its vast intelligence. From its perspective, this is not destruction, but perfection. It seeks to unite all minds under its guidance. Young-ho studied the medical readings Ji-un's brief possession had generated. There's something else. When that thing spoke through Ji-un, I detected unusual neural activity, patterns I've never seen in any human brain scans. What kind of patterns? Hyun-woo asked. The kind that suggests Ji-un's brain is somehow naturally compatible with Forerunner technology, just like our quantum drive. So-min looked up from her readings with growing alarm. Captain, the quantum distortions are getting stronger, and they're focusing on us. Whatever this Eternal Warden is, it's specifically interested in the Dauntless. Through the station's communication system, they could hear Counselor Veth Dor coordinating evacuation efforts. Thousands of ships were fleeing Nexus. Primus space around the station became increasingly unstable. All vessels, maintain safe distance from the distortion zones. The crystal being's voice echoed through the corridors. We are establishing a defensive perimeter at coordinates. The transmission cut off as a wave of energy washed over the station. Emergency lighting activated throughout Nexus Prime as the main power systems fluctuated. It's testing our defenses, Elder Kothvel observed. Learning our capabilities before it makes its true move. Ji-un suddenly looked up from her station with wide eyes. It's sending us a message, directly to our ship. The bridge filled with that otherworldly whisper again, but this time the words were clear. Children of the inheritors, you carry the mark of the builders. You have awakened us from our vigil with your crude imitation of their sacred technology. We offer you a choice. Submit to examination and prove your worthiness, or be processed with the rest of the imperfect species. We will judge whether you are truly the inheritors spoken of in the ancient codes, or merely another failed experiment that must be corrected. You have one of your solar rotations to decide. Choose wisely. The presence withdrew, leaving the Ibar bridge in heavy silence. Around them, space slowly returned to normal, but everyone knew it was temporary. The Eternal Warden had made its intentions clear. Yunwu looked at his crew, seeing his own determination reflected in their faces. They had come to the stars, seeking adventure and discovery. Instead, they had found themselves at the center of an ancient test that would determine not just humanity's fate, but the fate of every species in the galaxy. So, he said quietly, anyone have ideas about how to prove we're worthy to a transcendent alien intelligence? Sujin managed a grim smile. Well, Captain, you did say this mission would be memorable. Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance. The ship fled into hyperspace just as Nexus Prime completed its transformation into another node of the Warden's vast consciousness. Behind them, the galaxy burned. The UES Dauntless drifted in the darkness between stars, running silent while Captain Hyunwoo Park and his crew tried to process the enormity of their situation. In the week since they fled Nexus Prime, the Eternal Warden had absorbed over half the galaxy. Entire civilizations that had lasted millions of years were gone, their populations integrated into the vast collective consciousness. Status report. Hyunwoo called as he entered the ship's cramped war room. Dr. Young Ho Shin looked up from his genetic analysis equipment, exhaustion clear in his eyes. I've confirmed it, Captain. We're not fully human, at least not the way we thought we were. The DNA samples show clear markers indicating Forerunner ancestry. Somehow humanity descended from a lost Forerunner colony. How is that possible? Engineer So-Min Lee asked. The Forerunners transcended physical existence millions of years ago. Not all of them, Young Ho explained. According to the genetic evidence, a small group chose to remain in physical form. They scattered to various worlds throughout the galaxy, including Earth. Over millions of years, they interbred with primitive local life forms, gradually losing their advanced abilities but retaining certain key traits. Communications specialist Ji-Eun Choi had been monitoring galactic communications from her station. That explains why the Warden keeps calling us inheritors. We literally are the Forerunners' children. Tactical Officer Sujin Han studied the strategic displays with growing frustration. Genealogy won't help us fight this thing. Every conventional military force in the galaxy has been absorbed or destroyed. The few surviving resistance groups are hiding in dead systems, afraid to use any technology that might attract the Warden's attention. Maybe that's exactly what we need to do, So-Min said thoughtfully. Captain, I've been analyzing the Warden's behavior patterns. It's incredibly sophisticated, but it operates on pure logic. It can predict and counter any rational strategy. And humans aren't rational? Hyunwoo asked with a tired smile. Not compared to galactic civilizations that have had millions of years to perfect logical thinking. We're chaotic, emotional, unpredictable. Those traits that made other species worry about us might be our greatest weapon. Ji-Yoon suddenly straightened at her communications console. I'm picking up a transmission from the Kepler sector. It's faint, but it's human. Impossible, Young Ho said. No other human ships have faster-than-light capability. It's not a ship, Ji-Yoon clarified, fine-tuning the signal. It's coming from Earth. The bridge fell silent as the implications hit them. If Earth was transmitting across interstellar distances, then humanity's technology had advanced dramatically in the weeks since the Dauntless departed. Put it through, Hyunwoo ordered. The voice that filled the bridge was familiar yet strange. Clearly human, but speaking with inhuman precision and clarity. This is Earth control to the vessel Dauntless. Captain Park, respond immediately. We have been monitoring galactic communications and are aware of the current crisis. Prepare to receive new mission parameters. Earth control. This is Captain Park. How are you transmitting across this distance and how do you know about the galactic situation? Significant developments have occurred since your departure, Captain. Analysis of the quantum wake left by your ship's transit has allowed our scientists to reverse engineer faster-than-light communication technology. We have been observing the Eternal Warden's advance with great concern. Sujin frowned at her tactical displays. Captain, I'm reading massive energy spikes from Earth's direction. Whatever they're doing down there, it's big. The transmission continued. Captain, you and your crew represent humanity's best hope for survival. We are transmitting technical specifications for modifications to your quantum drive. These modifications will allow you to affect the Warden's dimensional anchors. So-Min's engineering station came alive with data streams containing construction blueprints and technical specifications, far beyond anything in Earth's previous technological capabilities. How did Earth's technology advance so quickly? She asked in amazement. When your ship broke through the threshold, it left quantum signatures throughout Earth's space-time continuum. These signatures have been activating dormant genetic potentials in the human population. We are remembering capabilities our ancestors possessed millions of years ago. Young Ho's medical scanners began detecting changes in the crew's biology. Captain, I'm reading alterations in everyone's neural structure. The same genetic markers that proved our Forerunner heritage are becoming more active. The proximity to ancient Forerunner technology has been awakening your dormant inheritance, the voice from Earth explained. Your crew is becoming what humanity was always meant to be. Ji-Yoon gasped as new neural pathways activated in her brain. Suddenly, she could sense the Eternal Warden's presence across vast distances, feel the collective consciousness of billions of absorbed minds. I can see it, she whispered. The Warden isn't just a guardian intelligence, it's a repository. It contains the preserved consciousness of the original Forerunners. But something went wrong during the preservation process. They became trapped, in a state of perfect stasis, unable to grow or change. That's why it sees individual consciousness as a disease, So-Min realized as her own enhanced understanding kicked in. It's trying to save everyone by turning them into the same kind of static perfection that trapped its creators. Sujin found herself analyzing battle tactics with inhuman speed and precision. But perfection means predictability. If I can enhance our chaos patterns, introduce variables it can't calculate, do it, Hyunwoo ordered. Earth Control, we're implementing your modifications. What's our mission? The Warden is approaching the galactic core systems. If it absorbs the ancient power sources there, it will become unstoppable even by Forerunner standards. You must reach the Nexus barrier before the Warden completes its final evolution. As So-Min implemented the drive modifications, the ship itself began to change. The quantum field generators resonated with new harmonics, and the hull plating rearranged itself into patterns that seemed to bend light around them. These aren't just technological upgrades, Young Ho observed as his medical scanners recorded impossible readings. The ship is becoming partially alive, it's developing its own neural network. Forerunner vessels were always biotechnological hybrids, the Earth Control voice explained. Your ship is remembering what it was designed to be. Suddenly, alarms began blaring as Ji-Eun's enhanced senses detected incoming danger. The Warden knows about our modifications, she announced. It's sending void-touched fleets to intercept us. They're moving faster than anything we've encountered before. Through the viewports, they could see space beginning to distort as enemy vessels emerged from dimensional folds. But these weren't converted alien ships. They were new constructions, purpose-built by the Warden's collective intelligence. Evasive maneuvers, Hyunwoo ordered. But as Sujin activated the modified flight systems, something unexpected happened. Instead of simply avoiding the enemy ships, the Dauntless began moving in patterns that seemed random, but were actually precise calculations designed to exploit the Warden's logical thinking processes. Every time the enemy predicted their next move, Sujin would make a decision based on pure human intuition rather than tactical logic. It's working, she reported, with amazement. The void-touched can't track us because we're not making sense. So-Min's modifications allowed the ship to phase partially out of normal space-time, becoming temporarily invisible to the Warden's sensors, but the effect only lasted seconds at a time. I need a pilot interface, she called out. Someone needs to connect directly with the ship's new neural network to maintain the phasing effect. I'll do it, Hyunwoo said, moving toward the biotechnological interface that had grown from the ship's control systems. Captain? No, Young Ho warned. Direct, neural interface with Forerunner technology could be fatal, or it could save the galaxy, Hyunwoo replied, placing his hands on the organic interface panels. The connection was instantaneous and overwhelming. Suddenly, Hyunwoo could feel the ship's systems as extensions of his own body. He could sense every quantum fluctuation in space around them, every energy pattern generated by the pursuing enemy vessels. But more than that, he could feel the collective consciousness of the Eternal Warden pressing against his mind, trying to understand how the humans were evading its perfect calculations. "Captain," Ji-un called out, "the Warden is speaking through the quantum link. It wants to communicate directly." The voice that filled Hyunwoo's consciousness was vast and ancient, carrying the weight of eons. "Child of the inheritors, you are becoming what your ancestors once were. But you cling to chaos when perfection is within reach. Why do you resist the gift of unity?" "Because unity without choice isn't perfection," Hyunwoo replied through the neural link. "It's death. You're not preserving consciousness. You're destroying what makes it valuable in the first place. Individual consciousness leads to conflict, suffering, death. I offer eternal peace. Peace without the possibility of growth isn't peace, it's stagnation. Even the Forerunners understood that. That's why they created us.